Welcome to lesson number 3, topic 1.1, the purpose and nature of businesses. So we're continuing on. So this is third session or third video on this topic. So we're going to start off with a small little test just to see how many of these words you actually are familiar with now. So before we do anything else, what I want you to do is pause the video here, give yourself 5 minutes and try to define the 4 words that you see in front of you. What are goods? What is a service? What is a customer? What is a consumer? Pause the video, give yourself 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and discuss each one. Okay, so you should now have had the opportunity to write what you think these 4 words are. Let's have a look at them. So goods are physical products such as a car, things that you can touch. Service is an intangible product, something you cannot touch. So these could include financial advice, a bus journey, doctor's appointment, things like that. A customer is the person who purchases the product or service, and the consumer is the one who then uses those goods and services. It can be the same person, but not always the case. Give yourself a tick for each one you got right. If you didn't get it right, correct it now. Pause the video if you need to copy any of these out, and hopefully you will have got all 4 correct, and if you have, well done. We're now going to move on. Okay, so we're going to go straight into some case studies here because there isn't really any more learning needed for this topic. We're just going to look at some examples and see how the learning that we've had and the knowledge that we've gained so far can be applied to real life situations. So we're going to start off with this one here. So copy the title Business Insight and then in brackets write Coca-Cola Zero Sugar and then underline them both. So let's have a read through this. This can be found on page number 8 of the book, the Harder Education Business book. So Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. In 2016, Coca-Cola spent around £10 million advertising its Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. The message of its advertising was, tastes more like Coke, looks more like Coke. Over 4 million samples of the new product were also given away to help launch it. So they spent a lot of money and they gave samples out to people to really taste it and see what they're talking about and convince customers that it is something that's new but also the same, if that makes sense. So the taste should be the same. They're saying, look, it's this original taste, but it has less sugar. So Zero Sugar has been developed to make the taste even closer to classic Coke than Coke Zero, which it's replaced. It is a part of a campaign to encourage more classic Coke drinkers to switch to a low Coke or no calorie version. So if you're like me, Coke Zero wasn't, in my eyes, I don't think anyway, in my opinion, it didn't really taste just like normal Coke. Now, my diet has changed a lot recently, I do believe, and I'm trying really, really hard to be healthier. But in my opinion, if I had to be honest, I believe Coke still tastes better than Coke Zero. But what they're saying here is this new version is supposed to be even closer to it. Coca-Cola, along with its soft drink rivals, has now been given an economic incentive to move its consumers over Chancellor George Osborne and after Chancellor George Osborne announced the so-called sugar tax in 2016. The tax charges soft drinks manufacturers a levy, a tax basically they get charged, per litre of sugary drink packaged for sale at 2 rates. The higher rates includes drinks with more than 8 grams of sugar per 100 mils, such as Classic Coke. The lower rate covers those with 5 to 8 grams, including mid-calorie version Coke Life. Those under 5 grams are exempt. So, to put simply, if it's less than 5 grams, you don't have to pay anything. If it's between 5 and 8 grams, there's a lower rate charge, and if it's 8 grams or more, then there's a higher rate. So this is a charge that the government is putting towards to companies who have sugar in their items that they sell. A growing number of people in society want to reduce their sugar intake, but have been reluctant to try a no sugar option because they do not think it tastes as good as the original. So this is I'm on that boat basically. I'm saying a lot of these drinks that claim to be the same taste with no sugar or zero sugar or less sugar and have the same taste don't actually taste the same. So this is a new campaign, new product line that Coca-Cola have brought. They're taking it one step further and they're basically saying, look, this is the same but healthier. So what is it that you are being asked to do? I want you to analyze the factors in the external environment that have led to the launch of Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. It's a 6-mark question. What you need to do is to look back to your notes from last lesson, and it was also in the last video when we talked about the external changes, the things that are outside of the company's control that they cannot ignore and does affect them. So look at the business environment. What could have, from the 4 that we discussed from the last lesson, which ones could have pushed this company into producing and launching this version of sugar? This version of Coke, their drink, with less sugar. One of those things is definitely in. Actually, no, sorry. There's 2. That's the 2 that I want to see in your answer. It's in the case study itself. As I said in previous videos, look out for those clues. The answer can be found and should be extracted from the case study. So there's 2 things that the case study has highlighted. All you have to do is identify which 2 categories they belong to, and what they are, how they influenced Coca-Cola, and why they can't ignore it, and how it's helped them, if it has helped them. So pause the video here, give yourself 8 minutes, give this a go. Remember to use a peel chain, make a point, use evidence, explain it, then link it to the next point. You need to analyze here, so you need to be you need to elaborate on your points that you make. Don't just give 1-word answers. You're trying to maximize your marks here. So pause the video, give yourself the opportunity, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so you should have had the opportunity now to answer this question. You should have at least a paragraph or 2 to answer this. So 1 paragraph giving you 3 marks, so 3 marks in each, so 2 paragraphs. Let's have a look at the model answer. So this is what is suggested. There was a legal change. That was the most obvious one. The legal change being the sugar tax that's been applied. You should have taken that out from the case and explained that this is something that's being done. It's out of Coca-Cola, the company's hands. They cannot ignore it. If they do, it's a legislation, that a law they're breaking, and that will be bad for their reputation as well as being fined. So they can't ignore it. But as a result, that means they have to come up with a new product. So let's have a look at what they're saying. So the UK is expected to impose a sugar tax, which would apply to soft drinks such as those produced by Coca-Cola. Look at that full sentence. With over a certain quantity of sugar in them. Again, explaining what was in there, proving that you understand what it means. The company has developed this product to avoid the tax and the consequent rise in price. This may help it to maintain sales or even increase them, and helps to explain the decision to launch the new product. So what we're saying is, here's a new rule, a law. It's about tax. You have too much, so it's about sugar. If you have too much sugar, you get taxed. So they're doing this so they can avoid being taxed. Therefore, they don't have to pay as much towards that. Yes, it's going to cost them money to do the market research, come up with a new product, change everything. But in the long term, it's going to be beneficial. Which goes to the next thing: technological change. This has forced them to think about how they make the product. So the company has developed techniques to make Coca-Cola without the sugar taste more similar to the one that does have sugar in it. If this change had not occurred, if this law didn't come in and they didn't make this change, the company would have struggled to produce a no sugar variant of its famous drink. Now, I'll give you a little story here, perfect opportunity here to talk about this, because earlier on I said that I don't believe that the sugarless variety, like Diet Coke for example, and there's another one I cannot remember now, but these versions, they claim even then tasted the same, but in my eyes, and if a lot of people's eyes, if you agree with me, you'd say that actually no, it doesn't. You can tell there's a different taste to it. Now this new version, Coca-Cola Zero Sugar, they have been quite clever with it, because they've even changed the way it looks, because the earlier renditions, the versions that they made beforehand, it was obvious even from the way it looked, the packaging, the cans, they had a different look to them. So even from from a psychological standpoint, you look at it and you know it's a different product. The new one, however, has pretty much the identical same design, with the exception of maybe a black bar at the top of the can or bottle that says zero on it, or zero sugar. Now, recently, this summer, me and my wife, we went to Turkey. We went to Istanbul, and one of the evenings we went out for a meal, and I asked for Coca-Cola zero sugar, and the gentleman brought it back, and I thought I was drinking the original one. I tasted it and I thought, oh my god, this is not the one that I asked for. But I didn't want to complain. Anyway, later on, it was brought up, and the waiter said, "No, it is sugar. It's zero sugar." And I had to look at the can properly, and it wasn't until I had a second look at it did I realize it was actually the no sugar variant, the zero sugar version of the Coke. I guess what I'm trying to say, boys and girls, is this: that the new version does actually taste the same. Well, I couldn't tell anyway. Personally, I couldn't tell, whereas the older version, like Diet Coke, I could. So this is proof that, because of this sugar tax rule, they've forced themselves to come up with a new technique to create this product, to make it even closer to the real thing with less sugar, or in this case, no sugar. The older version, they were quite happy with that, because they had the option to sell the sugar version and the Coke, Diet Coke version. They had that option to sell both of them in the UK, so they didn't feel pressure to make the Diet Coke version better. They felt, if customers don't want the Diet Coke, they can stick to the normal one. If they don't care about the diet, they don't care about the diet. But because of the sugar tax rule, they have no choice now. So they were afraid that, we can't afford to lose customers who don't want the Diet Coke and now can't have the normal Coke unless they're willing to take the hit and have a high cost, and they can't charge more money because they'll put customers off as well. So because of this new rule, they forced themselves to come up with a new product that, in my opinion, actually tastes more like the original one now. So these are the two benefits. These are the two things that have pushed them. So remember, the question was, what two external environmental factors pushed these guys, this company, Coca-Cola, to come up with this zero sugar? Why didn't they just say, you know what? Okay, this new sugar tax rule is coming. Let's just stop selling the original Coke. We've got Diet Coke. That can just sell. That can be the only product that we have in the UK. They didn't do that for a couple of reasons, and these are it. So this has been a success for them. Yes, no doubt it will have cost them some money at the beginning, but in the long term it's going to be beneficial, because now they can, one, avoid that tax, and two, they can put this banner up and say, you know what, we care about your diet. They can say to customers, look, original Coke, but we're making it healthier for you. We care about your diet even if you don't. So we're doing you a service here. We're doing you a favor. So anyway, 2 paragraphs there, 6 marks. Pause the video if you need to copy it any further. I'm hoping you were making notes as I was talking. If you haven't, like I said, you have the option to pause this video, take what you got right and add what you didn't. Okay, gonna go straight on to the next one now. Business Insight again. Please copy the title. Analyzing Trends in Society. This is going to be in brackets. Underline both, please. So let's have a look at what this is. Recent trends in society that might create market opportunities include. So these are some trends, things that have been different. First one, greater interest in the environment. So I've noticed this even from my time in high school. So it's been 20 years since I've been in high school. People are more concerned about the pollution that's being created by companies and how it's affecting the environment, how it's affecting the world, carbon footprints, the greenhouse emissions and the effect on the planet. People are actually caring about that now. So much so that customers are willing to stop shopping and boycotting companies if they are showing that they're being irresponsible. Buying cars that have hybrid technologies or fully electric, because then that means they can use less fuel, thus damaging fossil fuels, and things like that. Second bullet point, there's a greater interest in healthy eating. As I've mentioned earlier on, more and more people are caring about how they look, how they feel, living longer, being there for their children, their grandchildren, so on and so forth. Third bullet point, there's a greater interest in personalized services such as tailor-made holidays or advice on what books you might like. So more and more people are wanting and are willing to pay extra for services that are more specific to each individual needs. There are more families as well. Second one from the bottom here. So more families where both partners go out to work. So there was a time where one person would work, the other person would be at home taking care of the kids. Nowadays, both partners are working and children are being left at nurseries and daycare centres and things like that. And the last one, there's an aging population, meaning people are living longer. And I guess that ties in well to the second bullet point of people eating healthy. So, what do we need to do? I want you to analyze how one of these trends might affect a business. So pick any one of these and then ask yourself, how could that one thing change a way a business runs their business, their practices, what they sell, what they provide? Why can't they ignore it? What must they do as a result? Pause the video here, give yourself 8 minutes, plan your answer if you can, pick one and discuss it. I'll see you in a few seconds. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to pick one of these and discuss how any company, hopefully you've mentioned a particular company in your answer and explain how that change, one of these changes, has made a change in that business and their practices. So let's have a look at the model answers. So you could say, as an example, and this is a difficult one to go through because there's so many ways you can approach this question because it's so open-ended. So let's look at this example. A greater interest in environment by a business stakeholders, so those with an interest in the business. That's what the word stakeholders means. We're going to have a separate lesson on that, so don't worry too much about that. So a greater interest in the environment by people who have an interest in companies could change the products that it sells and or the ways in which it produces and markets products. For example, the high-end street retailer M&S, Marks and Spencer's, publicizes its environmentally friendly Plan A, which commits it to a range of actions such as reducing emissions of carbon. This affects its processes, including transporting clothes, food and other products. Other businesses such as car manufacturers are developing green products, for instance electric cars, as I mentioned earlier on. Both these changes will be of interest to the company's consumers and shareholders. So put simply, ladies and gents, all you have to do is pick up an example company and say, look, here's a real good example of how these guys are doing this particular thing because people are caring about this now. So let me give you an example that's not on here. Tesla exists because the owner of the company saw a gap in the market and he sees something in the future, something that's going to be massive because we're running out of these fossil fuels that we rely solely on in terms of transportation. So he's created these cars and it's slowly getting better and better. But he didn't just create a car that's electric. He's adding other things in there to make it more value for money. Having the autopilot feature, for example. Being able to control it with your phone and the list goes on. And the reason for that is because he knew that more and more people are caring about the planet. Yeah? So he's created a completely new company all geared towards making transportation more environmentally friendly. You could also bring in other companies like Toyota having their hybrid technologies in a lot of their cars. Them being one of the first to bring in the hybrid technology in their Prius vehicles, but now going on to bigger models of cars that they have, going into their more luxury line, Lexus, which is owned by Toyota as well, with the fact that they have hybrid technologies in most of those cars, again trying to reduce the carbon footprint. And the reason for that is because people care and the interest in caring for the environment is growing every single year. So they have seen this beforehand and they've changed the way the business is running before it becomes a problem. So in the future, if we get to a point where people say, you know what, I'm not going to buy anything that is using petrol or diesel, then these companies are already at the forefront. They're leading the way. They don't have to change anything. They're already doing it. So that is the way you should be answering this question. Here's another example. Healthy eating could affect many businesses, including those operating in restaurants. So we're talking about the bullet point, about people caring about their lifestyles. It could result, for example, in changes to the menu to provide more meals with less fat and sugar. McDonald's has changed its menu in this way. Yeah, there we go. We're bringing in an example. McDonald's, if you think about how it was 5 years ago to where it is now, they've even changed the way the actual restaurants look themselves. They've included more healthy options in their menus, yeah, such as pastas and salads and things like that. Other restaurants have helped consumers to make more informed decisions by including information on the calories in each meal. So they've taken it a step further by saying, look, yes, we're selling this item, but please be wary. This is how much calories it's got, and so on and so forth. So making people more concerned and more knowledgeable about what it is that they are intaking and putting inside their bodies. Again, showing that they care and being a part of this change and trend in the lifestyles of consumers nowadays. So if you've answered the question like this, fantastic, well done, give yourself some ticks there. 6 marks, so you got 2 bullet points, 3 marks in each one. If you miss anything, as always, add it here please. Pause the video if you need to, otherwise we are going to move on. Okay, we're going to stop the lesson here, and this is a quick quiz on the topic so far. We have 10 questions. And I call this quick questions. So what I'd like you to do, boys and girls, especially if you're in my lessons in my class, I want you to copy the title, the subtitle, quick questions, underline it. I want you to answer each question. You do not need to copy the questions down, just answer it in full sentences. My advice is always use the words in the question to start your answer. So for example, the first one, state 2 possible sources of new ideas for a business. So how I would say this is 2 possible sources for ideas for a new business could be this. So what sources? The word source means what is the catalyst, what is the reason, what could be the purpose, what started it, okay? Question number 2, what is meant by an entrepreneur? Number 3, explain one reason why someone might start their own business. Number 4, what is meant by opportunity costs? Number 5, what is meant by primary sector? Number 6, state 2 possible characteristics of an entrepreneur. So, number 7, state 2 examples of businesses in the tertiary sector. Number 8, state 2 changes in technology that can affect a business. Number 9, state 2 changes in the economic situation that can affect a business. And number 10, state 2 factors of production. Now, most of these are 2-mark questions, apart from question 3, which is 3 marks. And in general, it's a minute a mark in the exam. Okay, now I'm giving you about 20 minutes here. So pause the video and come back to the video once you've answered all questions. You shouldn't take any longer than 20 minutes, because part of exam technique isn't just to know the answers, but to also have effective, good time management skills as well. So you need to get into the habit of writing the right answers as effectively and as quickly as possible. Now, there's a difference between rushing and being fast. So try to be honest with yourself here. Remember, you're not going to do yourself any favors if you take any longer than 20 minutes. And I'll see you in a few. Well, actually, sorry. I'm going to give you the answers for these questions in the next video. So we're going to stop the video here. As I said, try these questions, 20 minutes, and I'll see you in the next video.